If you thought that your school was terrible, or still think that it is terrible, remember that it could always be a lot worse. There could be a layer of monsters underneath it who are ready to feast upon your flesh. We first meet our protagonist Donald, a teenager from a working class family, and Donald moved with his family after his father died to a new location. He was doing this research into this exclusive public school called the Slaughterhouse, wondering if he should enroll. He was still thinking about it, but his mom pushes him a little bit, so Donald enrolls, and his mom accompanies him there. And the school is not just some kind of normal public school, it's a very exclusive public boarding school, where you actually just get to live there until the semester ends. Or at least I think that's how boarding schools work. Anyways, we then see Donald's soon-to-be roommate Blake. We see one of the students, Hargraves, secretly giving him an air rifle and some BBs. He's a bit of a weirdo and an outcast, and he has problems with drug and alcohol abuse. Yeah. And Donald gets to meet Blake when Professor Meredith takes Donald and his mother to his new room. Donald's mother notices another name on the room's door that read Seymour. Meredith and Blake then react weirdly to that name. Meredith tells the mother that Seymour died and whispers to Blake to get rid of all of Seymour's things. After Donald's mother leaves, Donald stays alone with his new roommate. The two of them head to the yearly opening ceremony where Donald sees a girl called Clemsy, and immediately he falls in love with her. He approaches her, they talk for a little while, and she tells him about all the 4 schoolhouses. Andromeda is only for girls, Xenophon is for the smart kids, Olympus is for all the jocks, and the last one, Sparta, which Donald is in, is for all the cool, weird kids. And by cool and weird, I mean a bunch of loser outcasts. And as Donald heads to his house, he bumps into the guy called Clegg, and this dude stops him and he threatens him to stay away from Clemsy and to not look at him directly in the eye because he's somehow superior to him? Then a guy who seems to be the head of the school arrives and orders the students to stay away from the nearby woods. He emphasizes that the access to the area is strictly forbidden. And once the school director named the Bat arrives, he gives the students the usual welcoming speech, and a group of protesters barges in, accusing the Bat of a money-making scheme, and then that weird Clegg guy takes care of them, and Bat finishes his speech, and then all of the students return to their rooms. And then we cut to Meredith, who was jogging, and he finds this fracking facility in the nearby woods. He talks to the facility's staff and points out that they're too close to the school. However, they tell him that they have a permit and to just go away. Meredith jogs back to school, where the Bat reminds him to keep away from the woods. And at this fracking facility, we see that one of the members finds this reading about a movement in a hole they dug. He informs his colleague, who tells him that it's just probably some kind of mole or something and to just continue digging. And on that very same night, Meredith gathers all the Spartans because he found an improvised noose with the message, "Who is next?" in the bathroom. While the teacher is ordering the students to tell him who did it, Blake reveals to Donald that Seymour hung himself in the bathroom last year. Meredith sees that the person who did it won't turn himself in, obviously, so he orders everyone to return to their rooms. And on the next day, while attending class, Donald sees Clemsy outside talking to a guy named Smudger. He finds the courage to wave at her, and to his luck, she waves back. And she gives him a little smile, too. And after class, Donald tells Blake about Clemsy, but Smudger and Casper overhear him, and they throw a ball at Donald's face. Smudger then approaches the two friends and intimidates Donald to keep away from Clemsy because she is way out of his league. And a bit later, we learn about the school's history, when Hargraves helps out a local punching bag student, Wooten, to study for a test. Apparently, the school was built in 1334, and it was given as a gift to a knight who slayed a mighty beast that haunted the place. Donald and Blake go to their rooms, and Blake explains to Donald why he can't really be with Clemsy. And all of a sudden, Clegg shows up, and after he sees Blake's drawing on the wall, he decides to sanction them. And the next morning, Blake and Donald go through Clegg's punishment. And during said punishment, Blake has asthma and he collapses. Clegg orders Donald to bring him back to school and leaves, and Blake tells Donald that he knows a shortcut through the woods. So they venture into the forbidden ground, where they soon find this giant hole. And there, the fracking facility's staff notices them and they scare them away. Donald and Blake then meet Woody, the leader of the protesters and a former student of the Slaughterhouse school. He tells them that the Bat made a deal with the fracking facility and that he is making a profit that way. After Woody's anti-capitalist speech, the two friends head back to school, and a bit later, Donald stumbles upon Clemsy. Clemsy, and the two of them hang out at the smoking corner. And after a short session of flirting and a conversation, Blake joins them. Suddenly, Clemsy's friend Kay shows up and warns them that Clegg is coming with his cadets. Donald and Blake quickly start running, but Clegg manages to corner them. Clegg then throws a flare at the two to scare them, but Blake kicks it inside of a lake, and the lake starts burning. After the incident, Clegg and the two friends and Meredith visit the Bat, who fakes a call with the fracking staff and explains that the lake caught fire because of methane. Then he punishes Donald and Blake by prohibiting them from visiting their families over the weekend. The two friends now have to spend the entire weekend at school with the other kids, but Donald is happy because Clemsy will be spending the weekend there as well. And later that day, Donald and Blake begin arguing because of Seymour, and because Donald feels like Blake is hiding something from him. The situation quickly escalates to a point where they decide to stop talking to each other. Blake leaves and spends the time with a bottle of alcohol, mourning Seymour's death. And we find out that the two were actually together. Together as in they were in love. And some students found out that Seymour was gay, and they bullied him until he couldn't take it anymore. And Blake was the one that made the news to remind everyone about his death. And all of the drugs and alcohol were apparently some kind of coping mechanism for him. Blake decides that he should join Seymour and attempts to hang himself. But luckily, Donald shows up and saves him. The two of them make peace again, and Donald confronts him after finding out about Seymour. And on a very good Saturday, a huge explosion happens at the dig site. Something gets out of the hole and starts killing all of the fracking staff. And at the same time, Woody was apparently chilling in his tent, tripping on a bunch of mushrooms, and he doesn't notice that something is killing everyone. Donald and Blake see that something is happening at the fracking site, so they decide to investigate. Clegg soon notices that they snuck out, and he goes after them. And the two of them actually stumble upon Clemsy and Kay while wandering around the school. The girls join them, and together they head to the woods. There they find a complete mess and a weird, slimy creature that looks harmless at first, but then out of the blue it attacks Clemsy, and everyone starts to panic. Clemsy takes her shirt off and wraps it around the creature and proceeds to smash it against a tree stump until it dies. Then they take the creature to the Bat and demand to go to the police. The Bat tries to convince them that the police aren't necessary because he just wants to cover all this up because it's his business. At that moment, a maid who is with them hears some weird noise near a window, and she goes to check it out, and a monster breaks in and kills her. The students and the Bat head to his car, but then the Bat remembers that he left his dog back in his office. He decides to go back, and of course, the monster kills him. Then it attacks the students, and they somehow manage to run away and actually run it over with the car, and they check out the monster's dead body before they actually drive away. And all of a sudden, Clemsy tells the others that she needs to go back and find her brother. And her brother is apparently Smudger. And Donald is very happy to hear this because he thought he was competition. Anyways, he agrees to go back with her because, it's her brother, and everyone else decides the same. The group goes back to school, where Hargraves and Wooten join them. Clemsy remembers that Smudger is at some Roman orgy party, so the group grabs some weapons and they head to save him. Save him from an orgy, basically. But they get there and see that he's actually enjoying himself, like, a lot. Wooten and Hargraves stand guard, while the others head to the saving mission. And soon, Professor Meredith comes over with no idea of what's happening. So Wooten and Hargraves inform him about the monster. And the group infiltrates the party, and everything kind of goes downhill when Clegg shows up. Things go from bad to worse as the monster appears and begins slaughtering everyone, but luckily the group manages to escape with Smudger and meet with the others. And as they were making their way, one of the monsters managed to attack them. Meredith manages to wound it with a spear, and the others quickly rush to help him kill the monster. And then they all head to the smoking corner to wait for help. And soon Meredith realizes that help won't come, so he gets the idea to break into the school's armory to get weapons. And I know what you're thinking, the school has an armory? Anyways, they find Clegg there, and he tells them that he is in charge and that he's gonna punish Donald and Blake for sneaking out. And as he was rambling on, Hargrave shoots him with an air rifle. And this enrages him like a lot. He pulls out his gun, he tries to shoot Donald, but all of a sudden two monsters appear and they rip him to shreds. Meredith tries to help him, but he also dies. Yeah, pretty sad. The students then head back to the school and they enter this underground tunnel system, thinking it would lead them away from the school and the monsters. Wooten then finds this symbol on the wall, and from this they figure out two important things. One is that there's a tunnel that leads away from the school, and that there's another tunnel that leads to the monster's lair, which is full of methane. And as the group wanders through the tunnel, they find Woody, and it's revealed that he is a former student who ventured into the tunnels with his brother, and that they found the monster there. But sadly, his brother died, and Woody chose to erase the memories of the monsters completely. The students ask him to show them the way, but he replies that he doesn't really remember. And then all of a sudden, a monster appears, and Woody tries to calm it down. And somehow, he succeeds, but only for a brief moment, because the monster attacks him out of nowhere, and then the group tries to help him, but to no avail. He basically dies. And then the group wanders around in the tunnels with no luck of finding an exit. Another monster attacks them, and Blake decides to stay and sacrifice himself to buy some time for the others. The students soon find the exit, and together they give their best to move the bars so they can escape. Donald then decides to go back and help Blake. He picks up Blake's cocaine box and blows it at the monster's eye, buying enough time for them to flee. Everyone gets out of the tunnels, and Donald takes Blake's lighter, which Seymour gave him, and throws it into the methane-filled tunnels, causing this great explosion. They quickly flee to a distant field to avoid the fire, and then they sit on the ground, everyone hugs each other, and together they watch the enormous explosion. And then on the last scene, we switch to the Bat's dog, who is carrying his owner's head. The dog finds Meredith, who is still alive, and the movie ends as the students walk down the road as the large smoke rises from the place that once was the Slaughterhouse School. And that is how the movie ends, boys and girls. Please leave a comment, because I love replying to comments. Leave a like, subscribe to our channel. I will see you on the next recap. Bye!